Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I have a new bonsai to show you. It's a hibiscus, a variegated hibiscus, commonly called the snow rose, and its scientific name is Rosa sinensis. So let's have a look at it. Here's a close-up look at the flower. Really nice color, and it's fairly small for a hibiscus. The petals, they seem to come out naturally wrinkled like that, so I think that's just part of the variety. The leaves are variegated, so you can see the lighter patches on the leaves. Yeah, it's quite an interesting looking plant. You might remember back in the summer I visited Connor, and he has one of these plants, and this is a cutting that Connor gave me. After I got the cutting from Connor, I brought it home and I repotted it into bonsai soil. It was just growing in a garden soil. And I didn't video it because I thought no one wants to see a cutting being potted up for the first time. But it actually had a very nice root base on it, nice and radial. I did a little bit of root work and planted it. And I thought, this is going to be a really nice bonsai in the future because it had such a nice root system to start off with. My snow rose hibiscus has been growing really well in the plant room here. They do recommend you get 4 to 5 hours of sunlight on the plant every day, which is hard to do in Canada, but it gets as much light as I can give it. Today I'm going to start it on its bonsai journey, giving it its first pruning and trying to establish a basic structure. I'll rotate the tree around and maybe you can see a bit of the trunk in there. I'll remove these rocks. I just place those on the surface of the soil until the roots got established in the pot and the plant would stay upright, which it will now. It's probably grown a lot of roots since then. Take that dead leaf off. Yeah, so maybe you can see the trunk in there. I'll spin it back around to the front and we'll start the pruning. Right now this plant is hard to get in here to water it because there's so many leaves and branches hanging down. So I'm going to start today by removing some of these lower leaves just so I can get in there and see what's going on with the structure of the tree. So I'm not pruning any branches yet, I'm just taking some of the leaves off. Yeah, so you can see a bit of the trunk now. Now I've got this really long branch going off the side here. I think that'll be the first branch that I prune. Here's a look at that branch now. And I have plenty of places I can prune it. I'm using directional pruning here. And I'm thinking it's quite a heavy branch right out to about here. And I probably want more of an upright trunk because this will be a fairly large bonsai in the future. It doesn't have really tiny miniature leaves like a sarissa or anything, so you want it to be a fairly large plant. And also the flower size, you don't want this tiny little bonsai with these giant flowers on it. You want it to kind of look in proportion, I guess, a bit. So I'm thinking that heavy branch, I have one coming out the back here that is probably better to replace that long section with a more upright one. Or possibly even prune it off altogether. I'll show you what I mean. I'll zoom in here. So here is the area. I'm just going to remove these leaves so you can see the branches a bit better. Like that. So it comes up. There's a little branch down at the bottom. There's a thick branch here. And if I were to grow this, it would be like a multi-trunk tree because you can imagine, you know, this trunk thickening up and the tree growing quite tall. So this would be like another trunk almost down this low. So I don't think I want to branch down that low. So I'm going to remove all these little branches first. Like that. And then I'll remove this branch entirely. It's just too low to be a first branch. All right, here I go. I'm going to come in with my branch cutters and try and get a nice cut here. Like that. I'll rotate it around now so you can see my pruning cut, which isn't perfect. I'm going to have to come in now and clean it up. It's not too bad, but I think I need to take a little bit more off. So I'll come in like that, which makes a fairly large wound on the tree, but it's a lot cleaner. So there's a shot of the wound. It's fairly large, but it's all cleaned up and nice and flush. So I think that'll heal over really nicely. With the lowest branch pruned, it looks a little more tree-like now. I'm going to start the pruning of the upper branches now. So I want to find a leader. So I've got a leader going up here. I'll just clean up. There's a previous pruning stub there. That'll have to come in from this side. Just clean that up a bit, like that. So I think that will be my leader, this one growing right up here. It's the most vertical shoot. And I will prune this one back to here, this branch. There was an outward facing leaf here, so the new branch will come in this direction. And then I've got a fairly large branch coming up here. I'll just prune this leaf away for a second so you can come in and see that. Here's a look at that junction now. So I've got a nice branch coming out here. There's another one here. So I don't think I want this one at all because I have this branch growing out here. This branch is nice and radial, so it comes out, 90 degrees from the trunk. It's not kinked over at an angle. And this one doesn't. It kind of crosses back over the trunk. So I'm going to take this one off entirely. So here I go. Just like that. So now you see the structure's becoming a little more tree-like. Now here comes the hard part, pruning off the flower. I've got a long branch coming out here that's thickening up quite a bit. I'm going to prune it short, of course. So I think this will be probably my first division on the tree, where it goes from the one trunk to two. And I want to grow it fairly upright because, again, I want to grow this larger. So I'm going to prune it off to a bud that's facing upwards, so my new growth will come more vertical. So there's a bud right there, so I could prune it back to here, which I'll do. Okay, here goes the nice flower. Just like that. Aw, so beautiful. Luckily, they only last like a day or two, so. And there'll be more. Here's a look at the structure of the tree now. You can see it's looking a lot more tree-like. There's a stub here that was from a previous pruning. I'm going to clean that up. Like that. I've noticed on this plant that there's a bit of webbing in here, and I saw a few aphids on it. So these hibiscus are usually a magnet for insects. So I'm going to spray it with the soap and water now. 40 parts water to 1 part liquid dish detergent. So I'll spray it all over the plant and then I'll rinse it off. I've got my spray bottle with the soap and water. Before I spray a tree, I always give it a shake. And you can see it foams up, so you know this is soap and water. I'm always paranoid that, I'll be misting a tree, maybe a sensitive tree, and I'll get the wrong bottle. I should mark it, but I don't. So I just always give my spray bottles a shake, and if it doesn't foam up, I know it's just regular rainwater. And if it foams up like this, I know I've got the right soap and water. So here I go. I'm going to spray the tree now, so I'll start from above. You just want to spray everywhere. I'll rotate around and then spray from underneath. That's a good soapy mixture. Okay, so I'll let that sit for a bit and then I'll rinse it off. while I'm letting the soap and water do its thing, I thought I'd mention I've been making a lot of videos this month, one a day for the last, I don't know, over 20 days. And so now those first plants that I pruned are starting to bud out again. So once I get all the pruning done, it'll be time for updates on everything. So that'll be kind of exciting, seeing what shoots come out, and I might have to do some shoot selection. And yeah, it'll be fun to see how the plants reacted to all the pruning that I did this kind of, it was supposed to be fall, but it was more like early winter. All right, it's time to rinse, and I'll give the bottle a shake. No foam, so it's just rainwater. So here I go. Rinse it off. So whenever you see insects on your plant, it's best to get spraying right away or picking them off. In a plant room like this where it's very crowded, they'll quickly spread from one tree to another. So keeping up on your insects is part of the battle. And the earlier you detect them and get rid of them, the easier your insect battle will be throughout the whole winter. I'm going to give the tree a watering just to rinse any soap out of the soil. I don't think a low concentration of soap like that hurts the roots, but I thought, no, I might as well rinse all the soap out. Just like that. I'm going to continue with the pruning now. I wasn't done. So I've got a long shoot here. I can prune it back to here. I've got a long shoot out the back here that I can prune back to here. There's a dead leaf here. I'll just remove that. I think that's got it all. There is a branch here I haven't pruned, but it's very short. So yeah, I think that's got it all. Now, I don't know where the front of this tree would be. I'll rotate the tree around and I'll just look at possible fronts. Here is quite nice if I look in at kind of this angle. Now this whole tree as it grows, it could change quite dramatically over the upcoming years. I'm sure I might be pruning some more of these lower branches off to get a higher trunk line, but you know, it'll evolve as it gets larger. You know, you always look at the tree and reevaluate the design until, you know, it gets big and mature and it's kind of the structure eventually gets set. But you know, when you're developing a tree, your front could change 10 times. You may like a branch, and then as it develops, you may have to prune it off. It's maybe too low or not happy with the direction of it, or maybe a better branch comes that you can replace it with. It might be too thick. So yeah, it's kind of fun. Even though this is just a small cutting, I like, you know, getting the basic tree shape established. And then, you know, you just keep building as the tree grows larger. You keep working on it, and eventually you get a really nice little tree. When I redid this front bench by the window, I put the bench on a slope, so it's higher at the back by the window. So all the water from the trees drains off towards the front. And then I catch it with a cloth. I soak up the water and then put it in a bucket. And it's been really good. Having the trees on a slight slope like this, the water doesn't sit in the pots. So you have to water a little more often than if they were flat. But I think the benefits of good drainage is really good, especially in winter. In the winter time, you might water a tree really thoroughly, and then you get 4 or 5 days of cloudy weather. So the tree sits in this really wet soil for 4 or 5 days, and it's not good for the root system. So having them on an angle like this helps the drainage, especially in winter, but you do have to water a little more often, which I don't mind doing that. I would rather have to water a little more often and keep my roots healthy than water less and have them sitting in wet soil while it's cloudy out. The first stage of getting this snow rose hibiscus underway as a bonsai was getting that root system sorted out, pruned, and in bonsai soil. The second step was to get the basic structure established, and now I can put it back on the bench and let it grow. So that's all for today from this beautiful sunny day. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.